We are playing a game, and it's the most incredible game. In school, I was addicted to video games. And you see, just being able to immerse yourself in virtual reality nowadays is so easy, and I missed the bus, right? And I'm living in a very small village, so if I miss a bus, that takes 1 hour until I get the next one. So I'm sitting there on the bench playing Snake on my flip phone. And I was so immersed in this game that I missed this bus. No one can drive me. Like, I have to wait 1 hour. But at that time, it was worth it. So it's so important that we kind of understand how addictive games can be, but realizing that we can also use them for our own good. For me, the game of life started with Mindvalley, actually. So I was still studying. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at that time. I was in a very uncertain place. I was starting to read more about this personal development, and this guy showed up in my advertisement feed, Jim Quick. He was the first person that introduced this whole new way of learning, on having a quest. That's what education is about. This is finally the game and the life that I've been doing in front of a screen, and suddenly it was possible kind of learn something useful, because learning how to learn is one of the most useful skills, because it will accelerate everything after that. So from there on, I was just hooked on these quests, and I did all of them. The point where I really started to realize, okay, well, life is the coolest game there is, because it has the coolest graphics, the coolest stories, the drama, and within the game, there are many small other games. Just realizing the level of growth that you can achieve using this quest system, taking the thing that is familiar in games and applying that to your real life. And then just thinking about, okay, what is my big purpose? What is my quest that I want to do? And once you have a quest, a purpose in life, then the game is starting, because now you can move with a direction. And before, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do. The world didn't make sense to me, but games always did, because in games I knew what I had to do. I knew the next objective. And suddenly, with these quest systems, starting with Jim Quick and then thinking about what's my quest in life, I started playing the game of life. We are missing this graphical interface where we see this is the quest, and this is how the quest is broken down into smaller objectives that we can complete. Instead of just moping around, feeling sorry for myself, I thought, what if I could build this interface where we can follow these different quests and gain points by completing these quests and tasks, and ultimately level up. So I have been doing this for the last 3 years now, and now I'm at level 11. And I know every level, the growth that I went through, the journey, the pain, the suffering, but also ultimately the friendships that I was able to gather along my quest to ultimately improve the education system. Being able to reflect back on these things, on understanding, whoa, I have been growing like crazy. My takeaway on having this progression system, these levels where you can say, okay, let me actually measure my progress. Let me see where I was 1 year ago. And by being able to look back where I was 1 year ago, or maybe even 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, me standing here 5 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that. Okay, what was my highlights this year? What were my highlights this quarter, this month, this week, maybe even daily? And just being aware on how much you can grow during that time allows you to look much further into the future, because suddenly it's no longer just about your growth, but you see your potential, and your potential is limitless. If life is truly a game, who am I in this game? Am I currently an NPC, a non-playable character? Am I living on autopilot? This is what we need to get out of the culture, this passiveness, this autopilot, this non-playable character. Because I want you all to think yourself as the hero, the main character of your game, of your story. Because once you start thinking that, then you realize how important it is to reflect on our journey. From there, we can truly think about, okay, if I were to continue living my life like that, then I can really see, well, I've been able to walk this path over the last 5 years. So how can I continue in the next 10 years? And from there on, we have a very clear pathway. And I'm not saying that this is the path that we need to take, right? This is just optional, right? So this is currently the best path that I see in front of me. But there may come like a new path or a new person or a new connection. And I think this is what Mindvalley is about, creating these connections, these people that you meet. You're like, whoa, I met just the right person at just the right time. And through this connection, my whole plan for the next 10 years can be suddenly accomplished within the next 3 years. And with that, we just see how much we can grow, not only playing the life, but realizing that life is a multiplayer game. We get to play with one another in nature, but also like in business and in all areas of life. If you are familiar with these areas of life, not only can we now take this concept of leveling up on seeing the progress by completing quests and projects, but we also can kind of put this within these areas. So not only can I say, okay, I started here 5 years ago at level 1, but I can say, well, I was always a little bit more fit in terms of my physicality. Like I always liked doing sports. And so maybe I was at level 3 in terms of my physical body. And I wasn't like, I didn't know as much about learning. So maybe I was still at like level 2 or even level 1 in terms of my mind. And then like as I continued going on this journey, learning more, I started to level up not only as my whole holistic self, but also these different areas of life. We can see the progress and we can be way more articulate with who we are as a person. And this is what games are all about, to decide where you go. Instead of living passively, you stop being this NPC, this non-playable character, and you take control and you say, I want to go this way. With that, it's just so much more of a rich experience. I see the progress. I see these different levels. I see where I am further developed, and maybe also I see areas that need a little bit more attention. If you also think about these different areas of your life, then you can start creating this vision for your future. And by having these numbers, these levels for each area, we get such a good view on our life, and we can just see balance, but with actual data supporting that. So everyone can say, oh yeah, I'm living a balanced life. But show me your calendar and prove it. Like, are you actually living a balanced life? And maybe you just say, oh, work-life balance. But do you want work to be 50% and life be the other 50%? Like, I'm not judging you. If you want that, I'm happy for you. But I want you to decide what you want. Life gets busy. We all know that. We all know how like meetings just pile up. We all know how like many people we still want to connect with, and life gets in the way. But if we do not take time to celebrate our wins, if we do not take time to celebrate our levels, what are we doing? Because these levels, these celebrations, these are the coolest part of life, because that's when you go into flow. But there's so many other triggers in flow that I find are usually common when you're celebrating, when you're enjoying yourself, when you have fun with friends, when you're dancing and just are in the moment. And not only is that the time when you feel your best, but you are also realizing on how much you think in these times. Because the creative input that you get from these moments, you don't think about all these things that you have to do, and you're just in the moment and you're like dancing and you're being one with the music. And then afterwards, your brain is like, whoa, this was amazing. By the way, this one thing that you've been working on, here's the solution. I just needed some time to think about this, to let this sink in, to let this in the subconscious mind, where we can do way more processing than in our conscious mind. And that's where we realize it's a game and we should just celebrate it. We should enjoy it. And I hope you start playing the game of life.